But that was a rebreather with a dress and everything. And so he went to Washington, showed them that. They ordered a couple of units. And then when he came back, they told him that they wanted them to build more fives. So this is in January of 1942. By September, DESCO was building houses. He built a factory, hired employees, had patterns made, bought machinery, worked out all the engineering, and was producing helmets within 7 months.
That's amazing.
And you think about how many other industries are doing the exact same thing. So Bernice came, the other two women had jobs at other companies, so they were leaving. So they took about 2 weeks and trained Bernice how to solder. So then as they started hiring more employees, Bernice was training people that were coming in. And she became head of the soldering department. And then when they had experienced women there, then they started moving her to other departments. And but that tradition of soldering always stuck. All the women were meticulous about that. And that's one of the prettiest aspects of those helmets, is the fact that when you look at an antique car, you're always looking for the smooth gaps, no ripples, and all of that. The same thing with that. They took pride in doing those solder joints as good as they possibly can. It was a line where women would be leaving, women would come in, they would train them the same way, same ethic. And Nancy was our last female solderer. She retired 10, 12 years ago, maybe 15, I can't remember. But she trained Jeremy, so he learned from her how to do it right. Torch, that goes on a flame, about that round, about that big round, then constantly healing the copper.
Okay.
And the trick to forming these is you have to think about the copper being like pie crust, where it's got to, when it goes in here, it's just a curved sheet of sheet copper. So what you have to do is work it into these cavities. But if you just try and pound it straight in, you split the copper.
Right.
So what you have to do is work the copper. So when I'm pounding one, I'll start up here near the top, and I'll start working the metal down. And you're actually, like you're doing with the pie crust, you're working the material so that it doesn't get thin in any one area. And you do that from both sides, and then you start working your way back up again. So you wind up with a fairly consistent thickness.
Okay.
And then once you do that, you cut a center hole in the sheet, you chisel that out, and then you fold this outward. And usually where they want to crack is in here, because you start building stresses up as you're swaying that, and you'll get splits up near the top. Fortunately, you're propping this quite a bit, so you can get rid of that splitting. Yeah. Okay. Then you clamp the bottom strap into the mold, and you pound over the lip so that you wind up with this ridge. And then Jared will sweat the solder through to the back side, so it's all soldered all the way around. And and then he builds a fillet up in here. Then this goes on the belt sander in there, and this all gets sanded off, and then around the corner. The edge of the bottom strap is beveled a little bit so the copper can come in, so that you're not sanding and leaving a straight edge. I've seen a lot of Morses like that where they wound up with a straight edge,
Right.
rather than having the copper roll back on itself a little bit. But if you break that edge it gives a place for that copper to stay, and you've got a little bit of a lip all the way around.
Right.
So then once that's done, then they will lay out the stud holes, and they'll drill the holes, and then they need pockets on the backside because there's a shoulder on the stud. So then they'll go back and do pockets, and then Jared will put the neck ring on, flip this upside down, clamp it off. You can tilt this table so that the studs will hang, and then he solders the studs in place.
Okay, cool.
So it's a building process. These two are turning centers, or lathes basically. Pretty good size.
Yeah.
Museum boards and stuff. But they were looking for a side business because he still had a law practice. And so they bought DESCO. They flew around to meet the dealers, and they were down in Louisiana around Pimentos. And Pimento tells him, he says, well, we got this guy down here that's building these out of motorcycle helmets. So it was Joe Savoy.
Mm-hmm.
So they went out and they met Savoy, and he really nice guy, showed him everything he was doing. And then Fifield came back, and they were, we were still making Mark V's and commercials and everything else, so brass and copper was our thing. So he started applying the technology to the new hat. So spinning, casting, the whole deal. And he actually went to the step of having a helmet to look at with a side block on it. And then we have an old Kirby Morgan side block laying around here. So I started looking at their stuff. And we started thinking about it. Well, there's some, Kirby Morgan owns 99% of the market. So a lot of these divers are used to having the control right here. So I didn't see a problem with putting it, turning the valve. Also, the valve we've been using since 1968, the Hoke stainless steel valve, Hoke wants to retire it. So it was time we had to transition away from the Hoke valve anyway. Is from DESCO's wet tank. This was during Jack Brown's world record dive in 1945 to 550 feet in the wet tank. This is the only piece of that tank that still survives. It's that gauge right there. This guy was the general manager at the time, E.M. Johnson. That's Jack going into the tank. After they raised the squalus, they renamed it because they didn't think sailors would want to serve on the submarine.
Right.
So they named it the sailfish.
Selfish.
Well, it wasn't, everybody knew the story.